but then the music stops and you hear the music do this like blurb in the song in the middle of it. And it's like the audio goes in and out. And then I have people, and I just heard something. So I was going to see if do it again, Spirit. I heard something. So I'm on the TikTok live and the music goes blurb like that, where it's clear there's something cutting it out. And in that blurb in between, you hear a man's voice say, it was a male voice saying something and the words were just slightly broken. And I'm like, oh, who's here? So I went and I left the bathroom, totally live streaming in the bathroom as I'm getting ready. Because, if you're on with me on TikTok, you're just following me all around the house. We just go everywhere. So, and I'm like, hello. And there was no one there. So I'm just saying, Christa, one of your loved ones, male, was already introducing themselves in my bathroom as I was putting my makeup on.
Yeah, because I went back and I was listening to the unfiltered, the unedited one, and I said there was like, I know there's things that I forgot to say, and sure enough, there were things that I forgot to say, and so I was like super excited. So of course, now I'm drawing a blank, but I'll remember in a minute. But it was just funny. Yeah, I don't know. All morning I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, there was so much information coming at me. And sorry, my little one's going crazy. And it was just like, at the time I couldn't like put everything in a row because it was just so on the spot, and it was go. And then I was like, as soon as I had time to sit and think about it, I was like, oh yeah, there's also this and there's also that. So, and that's why I said earlier, I was like, oh, I have things to send you because I forgot about it. So
that's so exciting. And so as we're getting started, I want to ask just have you ever had a reading done before?
I've had like small little readings done before, nothing to the extent like Hannah had. And actually it was really funny because I told Hannah, which is not on the recording in the video, she had pulled through a completely different loved one 3 days prior on TikTok Live. And she had no idea it was me. It was the greatest thing in the whole world because she says it, all the time when she's on TikTok Live. She does her readings and then out the window all the information goes. So
that's so cool. So Hannah, when you were doing the reading, I kind of want to hear a little bit about when you were cooking the meal, actually. When you were cooking the meal, I'm interested to know, did you feel anything trying to come? Like, I'm getting chills asking this question, which is always a fun little game I like to play of like, who's coming through now? So when you were cooking the meal, did you like feel a connection or a draw or anything like that? Or were you just trying to figure out cooking?
You know what? I really did put myself on the spot with that a little bit of like, okay, we're totally doing something new conceptually. And yeah, this is how I connect with spirit. So it was that little like, okay, is that spirit? Is that not spirit? Are you here? Kind of like, Papa, can you hear me? I'm gonna start singing a song. Right? Like, I just was like, is that you? So it did take a little bit, but here's the great thing that happened. Once I kind of got into the flow, and there's a point where I started stirring the sauce. It's all about the sauce, right? And you're just kind of doing something very rhythmic. Or when I started washing the dishes, I started to feel this male energy kind of come in. And I felt warm, and I felt happy, and I felt joy and excitement. And I'm like, ooh, there's a male here. Okay, all right. And then it's like, all right, do I focus on him and chat more? Do I stop what I'm doing to like pick up information, or do I keep focusing on the dish? I'm like, no, just keep cooking. But I definitely felt him there. So I knew, I'm like, okay, this is definitely connected to a male. And I might've said to River, because River's on there helping me, I'm like, oh, there's a male here. And she's holding a super straight face, right? Because they're not allowed to tell me anything, but I can read body language. And I'm thinking, I think I'm onto something. So even if the recipe isn't right, at least I know I'm making it for the right person. And I think I did, right?
Yeah, you did. And you did great with the recipe.
Okay, can we just talk about how gummy it came out, that y'all just don't know how bad the biscuits in the middle were? They were unedible. the kids were like, Mom, we tried microwaving it. We tried putting it back in the oven. Like we basically could eat the perimeter because I didn't do the par baking. I didn't cut it like I thought I should have. So I really eat the whole gut. I'm telling on myself, the truth is about 60% of that dish was actually edible, and it was the edges.
Hey.
And when
I gotta be honest with you though, Hannah, because I told you about my son and that thing. That's one of the only homemade things that he eats, and I made it this week. Thought of you the whole time.
We got a dish now. It's our thing.
That's so cool. And I'm curious, when you were cooking, right? Do you felt that helped your connection during the reading itself? Because I don't know if you've ever met Christa before, or kind of, so one of those things kind of like you got a connection before actually making a connection. Did you feel that almost like enhanced your reading?
You know, it immediately gave me a sense of a connection to Christa. Like you're right, energetically, like this is the dish she submits to her loved one, about her loved one, right? This is the dish that reminds her of her loved one. I could feel like the love, like I just, you can feel the love of the connection that she has with her loved one. There's something about that, working with the ingredients and the nature of it, right? You're getting like it's almost like I'm getting a sneak peek into your home. I'm kind of remote viewing with the dish ahead of time, right? So I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about your loved ones, but it is kind of the opportunity to kind of sneak a peek in energetically. And so I felt more connected. I felt more comfortable and more excited again about seeing Christa and her loved ones. And ooh, how does this dish relate? So it kind of amplified everything and got me more comfortable with sitting together, because I felt like we're already having something in common. It's in front of us. They may not look the same, but there's a commonality here and a connection that we've already created, and we haven't even met.
And Christa, when Hannah got real specific with names, places, almost like times and ages. What was the most surprising thing, like the jarring thing when she said it, you were like, get the heck out of here?
The snake. Okay, the snake got me.
You or one of them with a snake, and I don't know if they were like out and about or around, that you would understand or recall a memory, or one of your loved ones getting something about a snake. And I feel like there's a bird involved in this as well.
Because that is something that I kind of just put in the back of my head and like moved on in life. Because I mean, this was like 1996-ish when this thing happened, 97-ish, somewhere around in there. So I was like, that's just one of the things that I put in the back of my mind and went, oh yeah, like whatever, that's just a little kid thing. And then she's like, oh, well, there's this snake and this bird and you, and you know, I don't understand what's happening. And I went, wait a minute here. And then I circled back around and I was like, oh yeah, there was this time we went to the circus. My mom wasn't there, but the loved one was. And randomly pictures were taken and nobody knew. And the picture wound up in the newspaper my mom worked at, which was this little like tiny town newspaper that, what are the odds, you know? But it happened. And I was just like, how did you know this? And I told her there was absolutely no way she would have known that.
Well, Christa, you're a great sitter, and I say this to folks, right? Like all I can give is the evidence I'm getting. And I love that you let it come back up for you, because first they gave it to me and I wasn't sure it was, you know, I never know what they're bringing through. And then it was like, well, yeah, I'm not sure. And then they kind of impressed it on again. They're like, you're going to get this, Hannah. Like, you're going to say this. We're going to reframe this, give this back. And they kind of like, I felt like if you watch the episode, my body language sits, and I felt like I got sat down, like sit down and re-say this another way, because this is really important. And again, I wouldn't know that. I'm ready to move on at that point. As soon as the readers, I get like a no, no's are just as important as yeses. When you get the no, you go, oh, okay, either I'm not understanding something, or this isn't that important and I don't want to put over importance on it. Let me move on. And if you watch in the video, I sit myself back because they're like, no, you're saying this again and we're doing it again. It's like, and I want to be like, Christa, they are not letting this go, mama. And I was so glad that you like sat, took a beat, and then you leaned into it and you were able to exactly what they were talking about. And I'm cheering for you. And I'm like, go girl, go. You're getting it.
I think one of the things that I've learned from watching you is minds are like parachutes and they only work if they're open. And that's a lot that I think goes into sitting for a medium is, you have to take what they give you and think about it for a second and open your mind to things that you would not otherwise, be aware of in your normal day-to-day activities. Like I would have no idea that I wouldn't know anything about a snake other than, oh wait, yeah, let's go back, 20 years.
And when those kind of stuff come up, I'm sure like there's a bit of shock that goes into it. There's a bit of like maybe unresolved emotions and feelings as you maybe the reading like closed down a little bit. Was there a lot of processing that you had to go through, like post clarity or post emotions healing? What were some things that you went through?
So yeah, there was a lot actually. And like post reading, I had to sit down and just be like, okay, what just happened? What just went on here? And I sent a lot of things to Hannah like afterwards that also that I remembered. But like horses, the horses thing, horses were cathartic for me, especially like when I was trying to start getting clean and sober. And I was spending all the time at the barns helping with the horses, and hanging out with, doing whatever. I haven't been back since. But what was funny, and Hannah, you don't know this part, where I work is in a rural part of the mountains. And the property next to where I work, their horses showed up for the first time the day after the reading, and I had never seen them before, and I have seen them every single day since. And so it is just it's awe-inspiring, and I'm like, oh hey Hannah, horses are here again. So it's awesome for me to see that every single day, and just like know that connection's still there, and that person who brought through the horses is still around, because they've been gone for quite a while now too. And then the instruments, somebody being in the hospital and all the instruments being around. I told Hannah, I said, I never shared with anybody what happened with that loved one. And I shared it with her today. And she was just like, oh my goodness, like nobody's seen a picture of it. Nobody's seen anything. And I shared that with her earlier in the day. And she was blown away. And I was blown away, because how was anybody gonna know that? I've never shared it before.
And as a medium, we just get these pictures in our minds. We get these glimpses, and we don't know the accuracy of what we're getting, or what level of detail is literal or what's figurative. And when you showed me a picture today of you holding your loved one's hand, and it was like I was being brought back to a memory that I was part of, that I wasn't part of, but I was. And so for you to bring that, it full on, we try to stay composed during readings, but afterwards, you showed me that, I was in my feels. I was having tears. You had me crying. I was just like, wow. I was.
Well, and then there's another one too, Hannah, that I kind of like to block out of my mind, because like as a mom, you don't like to think of your children that way. But when my son was 30 days old, he went into respiratory arrest, and he was intubated for 3 days. And so we spent a lot of time in the hospital, because he was also premature. So we spent a lot of time in the hospital the first couple months of his life. And there, again, lots of instruments. I was up near his head all the time. I was talking to him nonstop. And obviously, he's in the next room, so he's fine, he's healthy, he's great, he's here. But, that was another moment in time. And obviously it was his dad. So he was with me through the entire ordeal. I don't think we left the hospital for 5 weeks or something.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
But yeah, so that's another thing that downloaded, and here you go.
And I'm so curious when like this comes up, right? It's like things you've said you blocked out of your mind, things you haven't brought up. Do you find this helps with your healing process, almost knowing that people are there, or does it stir some things up that you realize maybe I do need to sit with a little bit?
This was honestly very it was very healing for me. When my son's father passed away, who was the main one the dish was for, when he passed away, I wasn't able to grieve like I normally would. one, we weren't together at the time. We had been separated for over a year at that point. But his parents just basically said, don't say anything. Don't do anything, don't say anything. And so only for the last year have I really been able to say anything and, do anything. And, I'm still grieving. I'm still going through that process, but having, him come through and validate a bunch of stuff and let me know, like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still watching our child. Like, this is what's going on. It was very healing. And I did have to sit with that for, I think, a couple of days and just, think about it and, just sit in my feels, like Hannah said, and just let those emotions go, because I had them locked up for so long. It was ridiculous, but it's good.
That is one awesome. I think, anytime you see a reading like this, it brings up stuff maybe that it's indicating I need to grieve, I need to allow myself to be in this space, which leads me to my next question for Hannah, because during the reading it seemed like there was some obviously really strong connections there, and if you could narrow whether it be a word or just an overall vibe, what would you say that overall like vibe of the energy that came in would be?
The biggest one, I think, for Christa was everybody that came through. The universal message was exactly that. We are still very active in your life. Like we have not gone and be disconnected. In fact, we're to the point where they're describing the crib. The crib had me like there's no way when like the crib is in the other room and it's green and there's something about red, but it was all green, right? Like it's this green, and I'm like that level, and I'm like, why is Spirit sharing so much about this? But it was because these loved ones wanted to know, the loved ones that were coming through. I would say the main ones coming through, and then we had some supporting loved ones stepping up. They all were universally wanting to say they're helping Christa, they're connected to her, they're watching over her son. So it was like that support system was with her, and it is still with her actively. They talked about the past, they talked about present time, and they talked about things going on, so that she knew that. And that's what the feel of it was like. We are here, we are so here. You are not alone raising your son and the needs and the challenges that he has. We are right here supporting, especially spicy pants. That was really cute. It was the grandma's, your mom's, help me with the mom's sister? Was
my
it your mom?
Mom's grandma.
Okay.
That was my great grandmother.
So she's totally connected. I was so there for her energy. And she was, I think, if I recall right, she was the one, because I hadn't watched the reading. Okay. She was the one describing the crib. So I'm like, where's the crib? We want to see it. Is it anywhere near? But that was incredible.
Yeah, so my son was the first and only great grandchild she got to meet before she passed away. So at one, for like a year and a half, we had 5 generations alive. And so she actually felt a really special connection with him because their birthdays fall on the same day in different months, but it's the same day.
What a cool connection. And so with that, like the overall vibe, right? Hannah gave us kind of the insight of it. It was this feeling of support, love. We are here. I'm getting chills talking about it. Hearing that, right? Do you take time to feel that throughout your day now? Like, do you kind of notice when either an emotion comes in, or you feel the love, you feel the support, or even if it's just a break in the day where you're like, I feel that love, I feel that support?
Yeah, especially like when I'm winding down after like a long day at work, because I mean, I don't have my husband here, obviously, he's overseas, and I am alone by technicality. Even though my grandmother's still alive, she's not, all here, and my nearest family is, 4.5 hours away. So, when I come home and I'm just decompressing and I'm, putting the little one to bed or whatever, I finally have to sit back and be like, you know what, I'm not alone. There are other people who are here, who are, not necessarily physically here, but emotionally here, spiritually here. I gotta take the time to, embrace that. And it's definitely helped me slow down at night and embrace the fact that I know that I'm not 100% alone all the time, which is kind of helped with my meltdowns, deployment meltdowns.
That right there, like just having a little bit of support. And it's so sometimes strange to think like, wow, mediumship is such a way to obviously reconnect, learn about yourself, but talk about that relationship beyond what we can see, right? It's kind of helping you tap into the energetic field of your body. I'm like, wow, there's so much more I can go on here. Which, speaking of specific people, Hannah, you were able to get specific, right? For instance, the name that popped out during the show was Cheryl. Like you got it. Like I've never seen it happen where it's just name comes through and it's like you're spot on. And it's not like it's Ben or Joe or Chris or like Cheryl's a very, I would say, unique name to come through. Does that happen often during readings where you can get the crib, the names? Does that happen during readings often?
You know, it's so good to bring this up in the first episode because I feel like this is a great thing to chat about. Every conversation with the spirit is going to be as different as the loved one coming through. And if people have an expectation of, oh, you know, this loved one said this loved one's name, then my loved one has to say the name to validate it. That's them, right? And I did have someone mention that, like, oh, well, then why don't you hear it every time? There's certain key evidence where we all kind of have our mouth drop, right? All of it's important. All of it's all of it is relevant, but there are those ones where you just go, what? Oh, that's like the name. Like, and I don't know why it wouldn't leave my mouth as Cheryl. It was like Cheryl. For some reason, it was in the front of my mouth and I was having a hard time. It was interesting to feel my mouth change because the name was trying to, I don't know any other way to say it without freaking it out, like trying to come out of my mouth. Like, it was like, Hannah, you don't get to be the one to interfere, just say this name. And it was like, it just was. And I even listened like, whoa, that you can even watch my mouth kind of just change structure because of the way the name wanted to come out. So it's totally fascinating that spirit will work with you. But there are those details that I have to recognize. If I expect them every reading, then I'm taking the lead. And when it comes to readings, it's spirit taking the lead and what they're going to bring through and what they're going to share and the level of detail. And the level of detail that they showed up this time, I have to say, I was honored. Like, that was all spirit. I really say that, you guys. Like, we hold space for spirit, but it's all them. So Chris's family came and they showed up and they had details and they had things they wanted to say. They were not holding back. So that part was gold. Like, the fact that they want to talk that way, that well. I'm like, go spirit, go. What else are you going to say? But it feels like, and Christa I think you can talk about this a little, Christa, how it feels like, unlike on like a live reading where it's really popping and jumping when we're on other social media lives, private readings are different. And I know, Christa, you haven't had one before, as you were saying, you've been on public lives, and we were talking a little about the difference. And if you want to share, it's different when you're in a more one-on-one setting. And I don't know if you want to share about that as we were talking about that, but it has a different pacing to it, you know?
It really did. I want to circle back in a minute, but it really did. It had a different feel to it. It felt, I don't want to say rushed, but it just felt like you were taking that time to make sure, like, hey, this is what's going on. And I know you say turtle, frog, say it all, and you know you do anyway, but you were just like, okay, wait, can you say that again? I just want to make sure that I got this right. And you know, I really felt like in the private reading, you were doing a lot more of that. And in the live reading, it was just like, okay, I'm just going to take it and grab it and say it. And if it's a no, it's a no. And, you know, in the private reading, you were more of I want to know why it's a no, because I know it's a yes, but why is it a no?
Yeah, it's like with a private reading, what I love about it, and folks wonder about this comes up, whether in private readings, you want to take the time to let it build. Do we have the time to let it build? It's a slow building process. And so I can inquire a little, I can hold space a little longer. But, you know, it seems like, to me, it takes like an hour. It's like a molasses in between when someone says something. But then when you go back and rewatch it, I don't know if you thought this way, it's not as slow as it feels during the reading. During the reading, it feels like,
yeah, it's not. When I went back, it was like, oh, okay, yeah. I listened to it on my way home, and from work, and by the time I got home, it was already done. I was like, oh, I thought it was a lot longer. I was gonna be listening to it, for a little bit longer, but no.
Now I want to give you the chance. I know you said you wanted to circle back.
Yeah. So I'm going to circle back to why you wanted to say my grandmother's name the way you did.
I would rather get the name wrong than not say it. Is your mom's name Cheryl or sound anything like that?
Her mom's name is.
Shut the front door and smack it 6,999 times. Yes. Say that.
They're from Illinois. So the way they pronounce her name is the Cheryl, not Cheryl. So when they moved to California, it became more pronounced, but that's how my great grandmother used to say my grandmother's name is Cheryl. So it was more in the front of the mouth.
Shut the door, 7,009. Are you freaking kidding? Do you watch? I'm like, sure. I'm like, what am I doing? Why is my mouth like I feel like someone's trying to be like, like if someone's giving you a kiss and they're holding her first time, that's what it felt like.
Yeah. No, it was very long and drawn out and very in the front of the mouth and not like in the vocal box, like we would say, like Cheryl. Yeah.
I appreciate that validation after the fact, because I've watched it and I'm just like, Hannah, you know that name. That was a struggle bus with the way you said it, but it did now. Wow. Okay, see, the wow is always the wow. The wow is, we all get wow. That's a wow. Wow. I got to go back and watch it now again.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I saw you were like, sure, Cheryl. And I was like, you're there. You're fine.
But also too, like with the second name, right? We said it was Bay, and when that came up, and I would only hear the B. So I don't know if you remember that, Ben. There was two names, and I was hearing, okay, so it was Betty. I was hearing, and they're trying to give me a B name, and it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll just get this impression like you're not going to get the name Hannah, even if their best case. Wait a minute, shut the front door. Show that again.
It's right there. It's upside down for you, but yeah, it's right there, babe. It says love great yaya babe, but yeah, it's babe.
There it is. So and your loved one, so the way we're like, you're not gonna get, and for whatever reason you're not gonna get it, but we'll give you one that's gonna get you to the right letter. It's gonna get you the right name. We're gonna pull you close. So the fact that when your face lit up, I was like, oh my gosh, did they do it again? Be like, you got it right, but you're not right. And then like, so it was good humble pie. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's close, yeah.
But you have it on your arm. Wow.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had it for a little over a year now, but yeah, it's there.
That leads me perfectly into my next question. Was there any loved one or family member or anybody who came through that you were surprised came through?
I am surprised my mom's father came through. Because Hannah described him perfectly. He was more of the wallflower. He was more of I'm going to sit back and observe everything and kind of just sit there like this and just watch everybody. He did like being a people person. He was a salesperson. Where the rubber meets the road, we're going to go and, basically Kirby knock door to door, type of thing, he did do anything. He did struggle to keep a job sometimes for, long periods of time at one point, which Hannah did get right. And then, and that's going to lead me into, I sat on it, sent the recording to my mom after a week, and she cried. She was like, yeah, that was him. That was totally him. That was the way. Cause she's like, he struggled to keep up with his family. He really did. We didn't see him for a while when we grew up, and then while we were growing up, and then more towards the end of his life, we got to see him. So, but he did struggle with those relationships because he was always gone. He was always on a job, or he was always trying to, just basically provide the basic necessities, like Hannah was saying, and that's what he did. I was very surprised with him coming through because he was a very strong, silent type. And if he didn't have to talk to a lot of people, he didn't want to talk to a lot of people. He would much rather just sit on the corner of the couch and with his arms folded and just sit there and watch everybody. But he did like to wink at you. If you noticed that he was watching you, he would sit there and do the wink, like, hey, I'm watching. I see you, kid. Like.
Okay. All right, great. Do you know if he was one to like give us some like a wink? I felt like he was kind of like doing like a good job kid, kind of gave me like this like little
Yeah.
like wink. Do you understand that about his temperament?
Yeah.
Hannah literally winked. She
Yeah.
literally winked, and
She literally winked,
It feels
yeah.
like the wink. Hannah, it just keeps like, do you hear this? Like, is it when you get these signs, when you get these things, do you audibly hear them? Is it an overall knowing? Is it just kind of like a nudge? Like, how do you get to the wink? Like that is such like a niche thing of such a specific person. Like, how do you get there?
So to take myself back to that moment, he was very much visually showing himself to me. Like they all were communicating differently, and he was very much a shower rather than a speaker. Is this an after-hour show? I gotta use humor, right? You gotta keep the vibe up, you guys. But no, but he was very much like he wanted to show himself, but he didn't want to say as much. Like where some folks like they're talkers, and so they're like talking at me. He was all about me visually seeing him and in front of me. And he, if I can tell you, he pointed to his eye and he went like that. So in my mind's eye, it's like having a memory of somebody I don't know, pointing to their eye, inside of my mind, remembering something, winking at me. And he pointed, he was very much like, so I was like, okay, I'll wink back. Wow. I didn't know the relevance, again, not knowing if it's going to translate well, if it was, but there you go.
Yeah.
That is, that's so cool. Cause like you said, what shocks me there is you say they show up differently. Some will show themselves, some will speak to you, some will be a feeling. So just to understand that, that is, I don't know, I find that to be super cool, right? Different ways and different energies show up in different ways.
And what I want to share about that is with people, this is always important to them, because then people think, oh, because this loved one did it. This is always the biggest conversation. Well, then can't you just describe what this loved one looks like? Not all of them show up the same way. Their energy, right? We're interacting with an energy that they're sending us, right? So the way that they send their energy is going to be received differently, just like a different conversation style. So as the reader, I'm curious, I'm open to them. I may even ask like, hey, can you kind of let me know what you look like a little? I'll put it out there, but that may not be the importance, relevant information that they want to bring forward. So I can say, I can't tell you what every spirit looks like in front of me, because not every spirit uses their energy to show me what they look like. Not every spirit says something to me. You know, they all communicate so differently. And as a medium, what we're doing is just being receptive to all the ways that they want to communicate and feeling. It's all in your heart. You're feeling the difference between the energy, trying to understand who's talking. And sometimes I don't even know. And that's where it came to Christa having to be like, oh, that's grandpa. Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's grandpa. Oh, that's my husband. Because I don't know. It's so subtle. And that's where then Christa has to come in as the sitter and do the heavy lifting and understand who's talking right now, you know?
And I have a question there, because like you said, everyone shows up in different ways and different energies and stuff like that. Specific to Christa, do you have any, whether it be insight, advice, tips, or anything like that, of how she can best connect when she feels ready and she's in that zone to be able to connect? Do you have any advice of whether it be intuition or mindfulness, meditation, anything like that? What would be you, especially since you've met them, you've met these energies that come through, like, what would you suggest maybe as best practices to help her connect in when she's ready?
Well, I love because Krista's already doing it. And like when you said it, Christa, from the get-go with the horses, I'm like, and this is why the reading went so well. You're open, you're receptive, you're curious, you're understanding the signs, you're sitting with it for a beat. And when you see them and like the horses, like, you know it, right? There's something inside of you, like, I know that I know this. And that willingness to be open and curious, but also that confidence of connecting with your loved one, then they're like, cool, I'll keep showing up and I'll keep showing you. So you are truly the poster child. No wonder Spirit picked you for the first pilot episode. This is how you sit for a reading. This is how, I'm just saying, Christa, props to you. Not having ever met you before, like, you just handled it so well, and relaying the information the way that they were giving, but also now you're staying open to them interacting with you and seeing the signs. And it feels like to me at night, if I'm understanding this right, and let me know, it does feel like for you, I wouldn't be surprised if you feel them all the time, but I really feel like for you, it's the evening hours when you feel like you can connect with them the most. So if that validates for you, that's what it feels like for me.
I'm going to tell you this. So we have a camera in my son's bedroom because we just never have been without a baby camera in my son's room, especially with him being neurodivergent and him knowing how to open things no matter what we put a lock on. He's just that smart. So we always have a camera in his room, and we have a picture. It is one of the pictures I sent you. It is the very last picture that I took of him and his biological father. It is hanging up in his room. So we, it's not like we don't ever show him. So it's there. I have watched literally every single night forever, and I am watching this ball of light just do a little dance in the camera. And at first my husband was like, there is no freaking way, that's gotta be dust. I'm like, no, watch the dust. And there was a dust piece that flew through the camera, but there was just this little ball of light that does this little dance, and then it zooms out, and then it comes back in and it does a little dance, and then it zooms out. And I just crack up every single time because I'm like, yeah, all right, hey, what's up, how you doing? Just good to see that you're there. You're checking on him, he's sleeping, you're good.
Wow. So there you go. There's the night validation. You got more reading. You just validated Ben's question. Look, Ben, you did it. That's amazing.
Because that is oftentimes you wonder who's coming through. When I see the horses, when obviously I think it can be evident when it's the light in your son's room, like you kind of know, or you get a feeling of that, right? Do you feel the connection, or do you just kind of acknowledge it, or do you go deeper when it happens?
A little bit of both. I always say, hey, Philip, what's up? Philip was his name. I was like, hey, Philip, what's up? Check on him, everything's good. But he does the same thing that I've seen a lot in Hannah's lives, where he'll just because we have an Echo Dot in my son's room, and I always play lullabies on it every single night. It's just routine, and he'll just turn it off. He'll like, I don't like this song, and just turn it off. And we're like, hey, you get, leave it alone. And it's always the same song too, which annoys the hell out of me, because I'm like, it's on shuffle, leave it alone. It'll pass in 3 minutes, just leave it alone.
I love what you just said, the consistency of that, the intelligence of spirit, that you recognize it's the same song, right? Yeah. And it's funny that I said before, and I felt like I had to say this on the video, how he messed with my dot before I came in on the live. You just validated what happened to me before I came on, of messing with that little, stopping the music. It just, in that little spot in the music. So but the intelligence of spirit right there, I love it. Because someone may say, right, they're watching this, they're like, oh great, everything's assigned now. But you just clarified the intelligence of it being the same song and him messing with it, and you even knowing, you were like, knock it off.
We had the dots when we lived together in our apartment in Southern California. We had the dots in the house. He hated them. He absolutely hated the dots. He would always disconnect them and like hide it from me, because he didn't want he's like, I don't want you spying on me all the time. I'm like, I'm not spying on you. It's just there to turn the lights on and off and, make sure that music can play for our child while he's sleeping. But yeah, no, he hated the dots. So it doesn't surprise me that he messes with them all the time, like at all.
I love that. I love it. Spicy. This is spicy.
Very spicy.
Bentley, I want to ask, going into it, obviously we saw in the beginning of the first episode there, just kind of what you were hoping to see, hoping to feel. What was your overall expectation going into it?
I didn't have any expectations. I find it's better to not have any expectations. Like I said, I've learned a lot from watching Hannah on her lives, is to go in without expectations. Don't go in and be desperate. Don't go in and, just come from a place of love, and just come from a place of, well, maybe this will happen, maybe not, because if you set yourself up and you set that bar so high, like, oh yeah, Hannah's going to say this name, and she's going to say this date, and she's going to say, she's going to bring this in and this in and this in. And then she doesn't, she brings in entirely different things. You're completely disappointed. And I think if you go in with an open mind, and you go in just thinking, okay, whatever happens, I think was an overall experience. That's why I didn't have any expectations going into it at all.
And
this
I
is
see
for everyone in the back. This is for everyone in the back. Like anybody ever, when I'm just saying, please, that is chef's kiss to how to get an amazing reading from a medium is exactly what you just said, Christa. It's like if you go sit down with a best friend, and you're going to talk in person, right? Like you sit down, you're not trying to tell them what to say, and you're not anticipating everything. You're open to the conversation. And I want folks to remember that in the spirit world, it's the same way. It's an open conversation. It's not an expectation of, well, if they don't say I love you, if when they leave, they don't love me. No, let it flow, let it go, let them share. This is their chance to connect with you. So you saying that is chef's kiss, my love.
I mean, if anybody took 5 minutes out and watched your live and say, don't come in from a place of desperation. I mean, it's pretty easy to walk into a reading, any reading, and just walk away being just mind blown at any time.
And I think that, in Dr. Michael Newton's Journey of Souls, he was a hypnotherapist working in, the subconscious mind. That's what they talk about he talks about specifically is like spirit can't connect with you in a chaotic mind. So going in with those expectations, just kind of being present, letting things go as it goes, not trying to control the narrative or hope if Hannah doesn't bring through a certain person, then it's a failure, right? You were just open-minded, and whoever comes through is meant to come through, kind of thing, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, one of the stipulations, I guess, for Mediumship and a Meal was the whole, well, send one that your loved one really, really liked. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, he really liked this, but if he doesn't want to come through, he doesn't want to come through, and that's totally fine. If somebody else wants to come hang out, come hang out. But again, minds have to be like parachutes, and they only work when they're open.
I love that you said that, because I'm going to give an inside secret now. So it's the after show secret that I tell people. So here we go. For anybody who wants to know, the dish has more to do about you, the sitter, than it ever has to do with the spirit coming through. It's what connects you and opens you up. And this is like that offering, like that, like it's like you're presenting a gift to your loved one's spirit, right? And so this is that connection. So if it's something that reminds you of or opens your heart up, that's what's more important. And the right loved one's going to step through at the right moment with the right conversation. So it really is like this is just you presenting a loving gift to them and inviting them to step forward and connect with you. And the fact that, like you said, it's the dish matters because it's the connection, but it doesn't have to be a specific dish. And I know that for people, they're like, well, I could never make my mom's 3-course level. Like you don't have to make that. That may be one of the dishes that remind you of her, but what sparks joy for you? What warms your soul? What fills your belly? And if they were sitting with you right now, what would you love to make for them? Right? Because you're the one doing the cooking. So what would you want to make for them? And that's the ticket right there. So you saying that, that's it. All of that. You came in with the right attitude, the right dish, the right curiosity, so thank you, because I know that you've set the bar very high now. You and your loved ones. Oops. This is the last and final episode. So the first and final episode of Mediumship and Meal was brought to you by.
And so as the sitter, what would I know you kind of touched on a couple of them, Christa, but what would be your recommendations going into if people decide to sign up and come for Mediumship and Meal? What would be your recommendations going into it?
My recommendations would definitely be choose something you're comfortable with. Don't try making, like Hannah said, a 3-course meal that your grandma made for Thanksgiving. Like, just don't do it. Do something you're comfortable with. I was comfortable with making a 1-pot meal, so I made a 1-pot meal. Also, like I said, come with an open mind. Be calm. Don't be anxious. If you need to have your cup of coffee, have your cup of coffee. But stay open, and just if you have to come back and circle back and think, oh yeah, by the way, when you said this is actually what was going on. I forgot. It's fine, because there were a couple times where I was like, I have no idea. Oh wait, yeah, I do. Like with the S name, I was like sitting there going, I have no idea what she's talking about with this S name. No idea. And then I had to, oh, there we go. Middle name. It's not a first name, it's not a last name, but it's a middle name. It is a middle name.
Did you just see that go by her, behind the chair, Ben?
I
While
did.
she was talking.
I did.
Okay, and you see it going by the TV too? Okay, I don't know if we got that on camera. I don't know if it's dust or if it was something that, if it was smart or intelligent. I'm Hannah. I'm like something went by you while you were talking. So
I don't know if it's dust, because actually my babysitter was cleaning when I first got here, so my house is pretty clean.
so we'll have to all watch again. Everybody watch close. Well, and you said, I think you said you had stuff that you have with you that
I do.
Ooh, I'm excited. You've got, speaking of stuff and things to circle back and remember and be like, oh, so I'm circling back remembering. You said you got stuff, and so is this a good time?
So yeah, I ran out to the car before we started recording because you mentioned a jacket, and my mom found us a box of stuff that came from my apartment when I moved out of it after my son's father and I separated, because like I mentioned, we weren't together when he passed away, and there was some stuff that got left behind. Without going into too much detail, some of it was clothing, and it happened to be a jacket. Oh, it's upside down, but here we go. It's just a sweatshirt, and I took it, and it's been sitting in the car because we're gonna go to the blankets now. I'm going to be using it to be put into the quilt we're gonna have made for our son. There's a couple t-shirts and stuff that I have still too, so we're gonna take that and we're gonna turn it all into a quilt for my son.
Just amazing, just amazing. It's just, and again, and in a reading, this is anybody who's, if they watch this, if they're thinking about mediumship or anything, right? It's like the magic, and I say this a lot, and I'll say it to anybody 10 times. The magic is in the mundane. It is, say, the jacket, where somebody who's this, and I understand, like I've said, I'm okay with skepticism. Cynicism is going to shut down anything connection to spirit, but the skepticism of things. But they will talk about everyday items, but there'll be something very specific about it. There'll be something purposeful about it. So you mentioning, because I'm hearing, like, I heard the jacket, I'm like, jacket, okay, you're saying something about jacket, but they were really holding on to it. They're like, no, this is good. And you said two things, and that's when I took that moment of like, oh, two, okay, just keep it going then. And then the blankets, and yeah, they really want, they will use everyday items to bring up either something significant that happened during that time, or like you're saying, after the fact. Wow.
Yeah, there was with all the blankets, actually, because there's technically, you brought up blankets, and there's 3 blankets that came into the equation. And one was the one that I made when I was in rehab. I was very, very crafty when I got into rehab. I made a bunch of bracelets. I made a bunch of keychains. I was coloring a lot, but I made a blanket. It was one of those, no-sew, tie-together blankets. So I did one of those, and I gave it to him while he was in his program. And then I made another one, 6 months later or something, and it was a little bit thicker, and I gave it to him. And then obviously now this one that I'm in the process of going to have made, I don't know, I can't really depart with the jacket right now, so it's kind of being delayed. But yeah, it's just that whole getting it to be made type of thing. So yeah. And then actually, Hannah, you also brought in the military connection. So as I've already, mentioned to you, my husband is in the military. He is deployed right now. However, my great-grandmother's husband was also in the military as well. So I have a feeling that he was just popping in and saying, I'm here too, because you're not going to remember this, but Veterans Day, I want to say last year, I was at my mom's house, and you actually read him for my mom. You pulled him through. I was on your live. You pulled me up, and I was like, my mom's going to know way more about this than I did. So I ran down the stairs to her. It was a military thing. It was on Veterans Day, and that has literally never left me. So there you go.
I mean, that's the thing, like on the lives, we do so many the live stream, because some people might know, like live stream on TikTok, we do these live free evidential mediumship readings where we just pop on and it's random people in the chat. There's random folks, which is what I love. I love it because I know nothing. Again, my big thing is I want to know nothing, and nothing about the sitter, nothing about the loved ones coming through. So on these live feeds, right, people are just coming through and something will stand out, something we're being drawn to about you. And then we go in and give you evidence that there's no way we could know. So, but this is the hard part, is that even if I wanted to, I can't hold on to all the readings. I can't hold on to them. They're going so fast. There's so many different readings that we do. There's so many different people. So you're right. Like, I don't remember it, but that's like absolutely amazing and that's the thing you're saying, like, but you remember it, and they stick with you, right? It's like you're saying, years later, and it still stands out to you. It's still, it still resonates with you. It's still part of that healing process. So, well, I don't get to hold on to it because I'm just the channel. I love knowing that spirit has left it and pressed it on your heart, and that's wonderful.
And I think it has something to do with the fact that it was Veterans Day and you called him the general, which is something that was kind of stuck with me. But I think it was also the moment where it took my mom from kind of half believing everything to kind of full being like, okay, yeah, this is something that's real and is just there. And so, like I said, she cried when I sent the whole reading because she was like, oh my gosh, yes. So good job, Hannah.
Oh, no. Good job, family. I mean, they're your family. Just again, like I said, they showed up, and it's just, they showed up with bells on. They were like, we're doing this episode together. Woo! Party Christa.
Ben's probably sitting there like, what?
No, I'm stuck. If I'm stuck anywhere, it's on how cool that a mediumship reading almost reintroduced you to that jacket, because otherwise it was sitting in a box, and all of a sudden it's this chain of events that happens, right? And then when all of a sudden that happens, now, like you said, I'm having trouble parting with it because I haven't had it, I haven't touched it, I haven't just been with it. And soon as it's part of that grieving process we started working through in the beginning. We started talking about, like, I've been grieving, but I haven't got to properly do it. Like, this is part of it, right? And I think just your creative mind came through, and it said, like, I'm going to put it in this quilt. I'm going to have it literally lay and keep my son warm. And like, it's just, I think there's so many, like, I keep getting chills when I keep talking about this. It's just, I think that's so cool that I love the dominoes falling, and I just thought that was really cool. Like, you could see, like, I always say, where emotion is, that's where we get to sit for a little bit, and you can see, just obviously holding that jacket, there's emotions attached to that. So it's like letting you know, I need to sit here with this for a little bit. I just found that to be so cool.
Oh yeah, it was definitely one of those things. And my husband is still a huge skeptic, no matter how much, I'm like, hey, no, you got to understand this. He's still like 100% a huge skeptic, but he's also, like Hannah mentioned, he's also been my biggest support system, because I kind of feel, I've always felt this way, that, things in life don't happen just for a reason. There's no coincidences. And that's definitely something I learned getting sober too, is there's definitely no coincidences in life. I met my husband, he left, but he was still a big support system, because a month after he left, we had this, tragedy struck basically. And it was, my son had his last, visit with his father on September 11th, and then 10 days later he was gone, and it was his second visit, and we don't know what went wrong. We don't know what went through his head. We don't understand, that's with addiction, you never understand. And so, like I said, I never got to grieve, but my husband, being away for as long as he was away, was still there as much as he could have been. And with Hannah saying, oh, he's been gone. Well, yeah, the running joke of our relationship is, at the end of this deployment, we have been in the same room probably 8 months out of 3 years we've been together, 2.5, 3 years we've been together. And it's just, we've been through so much in that time that it doesn't take us being physically together to have that relationship. And yeah, he's been 100% supportive. He's always been supportive. And that was one thing that when Hannah brought that through, I was like, okay, yeah, there we go. She nailed that one, because I mean, he stayed on the phone for a couple of hours with me while I just sat and cried, going, I don't know what I'm going to do. Now I have to raise a little boy on my own. I don't know what it's like to be a boy.
And I mean, first we also have to just thank your husband so much for his service, not only to this country, but to you as that support system. And talk about double duty there, right? Like, he's just, his true colors are coming through it. And that, I think finding that teammate and this tragedy bringing you guys that much closer together and showing true colors and stuff like that, I think is, you always look kind of for the sunshine and the rainbows,
Yeah,
as much
and
as you
even,
can.
and even though he is a skeptic, like I mentioned, you know, he has come out in the last, you know, couple months and say, oh, by the way, you know, that toy that, you know, I took the batteries out of, I didn't take the batteries out of it because it was annoying. I took the batteries out of it because it was sitting in the middle of the floor and the child was in bed and it would go off. I'm like, oh, so it's not that you're a skeptic, it's just, you know, things are freaking you out because you know now it's true.
Oh, that's so funny. And you know, and I say that too in my family. Like, I have a house full of people and who see spirit and talk to, like, know that spirits are around, and they still do. They still have that healthy skepticism, and I'm down for it, right? Like, I even say as a medium, like, don't take everything someone says just because they have a title. Like, let the evidence do the heavy lifting. Let the evidence speak for itself, and then you let go and you surrender whether or not somebody wants to be receptive to the information the spirit world is bringing through, right? But it doesn't get to take away from you knowing what you know and the marvelisms that you see. That's what one of my best friends call them, marvelisms. And it's true that when spirit shows up, you're like, I mean, you can deny it all you want. I mean, but holy heck, McGecker, that just happened.
And as we're closing in on the hour of the Mediumship and a Meal after show here, I obviously want to be conscious of your time, Christa, because I know you got a little one probably cooking a meal over there in the kitchen right now. Any last kind of words from either of you? I wanted to see whether it be on the reading side or the sitting side. Is there anything, any parting words for the after show?
Just, you know, again, don't go in with assuming or expecting, don't go in with expectations. 100% don't. Just, you know, be yourself, be open, you know, don't say this is who I want to come through and this is why, and or I need closure and this is why. You know, go in and just be like, okay, cool, whoever comes through and whoever doesn't, and that's just how we roll.
I love it. Anything from you, Hannah?
I just want to say thank you, Christa, for being so open and vulnerable and honest. Like, your journey for what you've been through and your life experience. I have had so many people reach out to me and say, we love her. So that's why I've asked you. Have people been asking for autographs? Because they are so touched by your story, and I want you to know I am as well. Like, getting to go back and rewatch, right? Because that's the neat part of getting to go back and rewatch, and I can watch it 2 or 3 times, and like I really get to now retain the reading because it's there. But seeing you and your heart and your love and the work that you do, like, when I say I am honored to have brought your loved ones through for you, I mean that through the depths of my soul. Like, if this was the last episode, the first, last, the middle, beginning, and the end, Christa, I mean it. Like, I am, for what you do, like Ben said, what your husband does, and just, you've shed so much light on so many levels. I just want you to recognize that you wearing yellow is not a coincidence, because you really have, I'm serious, you have shined like a sun. You are the one that's amplifying this message. The way that you're open and receptive to communicating through loved ones, privilege and an honor. Thank you. And Ben, thank you for hosting this and bringing this all together and helping us have this after show, which whatever the name ends up being, and we all get to be surprised because we're still working on the name, and I can't wait to, like with everybody who's going to watch this episode and go, we have a name. But I'm excited that we got to get together and do this. So thank you, Ben. Thank you, Christa, and everybody who's watching Mediumship and a Meal and who is continuing to support. I do want to give that plug. I want to say thank you, everybody. This show would not be here. It's been 2 years of building this and everybody coming together and the way everybody has. Like, I'm excited, and I'm going to ask people to keep showing up, keep checking in, keep watching, put it on loop in your bathroom while you're painting your bathroom, I would say, or let it roll, let it play, and let's go and keep doing this, because this has been magical. So thanks, everyone.
No, and thank you, Hannah. It was such an honor to do this. And even you were like, oh, I was thinking that this might be the first one. I was like, yeah, okay, nah. And then I pulled it up and I was like, hey, it's me.
Okay, can I ask, have any of your coworkers see it, or has anybody said it? Like, has anybody seen it yet, or mentioned it to you, or have you thought of showing them? Has that come up at all?
Thought of it. I have thought of it, but I haven't gotten brave enough to be like, hey, by the way, here's this. But eventually, I have been sharing your videos though on TikTok, promoting it. And I have been, sending it out to like some family and friends. So some of my family and friends have seen it. Not everybody quite yet, but yeah.
Then that's what I wanted to ask. What was the response? You said your mom's response, but has anybody
My
else
mom
watched
cried.
it?
My mom watched it. My mom was like, well, thanks for making me cry. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to happen. But she was very much a daddy's girl. So to hear from her dad was very, very cathartic for her. So it was very, very good for her.
You think your husband will ever watch it? Because I don't think mine.
Uh-oh.
We've lost Hannah. Hannah's microphone is no longer with us. It is
She's
just
coming.
yeah, we're having spiritual difficulties apparently over there. So Christa, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to be a part of this myself. I know Hannah said thank you. Having both of you be able to be here and share your experiences has been a highlight of my evening. And I hope anybody watching this is piqued in interest, whether it be following the Huggable Healer and watching her live shows, her content, or Christa following your journey, being able to relate to your journey through recovery, through grief, and everything you've gone through and continue to work through. So thank you for being vulnerable, opening up, and sharing. And I'm your host, somebody like you, Ben Meyers. Thank you so much, and we will catch you on the next episode of Mediumship and a Meal.